Welcome, witches, wizards, and muggles alike, to another enchanting episode of Magical Tales from the Slytherin Common Room, bringing your favorite Harry Potter fanfiction to audio format. So sit back, relax, and Accio headphones and let the magic begin. Two Weddings and a Manhunt by Deydralinne, Chapter 2, August 2nd, 2003. Draco's head hung in his hands as he sat at the end of the bed. Hermione had locked herself in the bathroom, muttering something about needing a minute. Frankly, he didn't care. She could stay there. He had found some clothes scattered around the floor that seemed to belong to a male and certainly fit him, despite being certain that he had never worn anything so horrendously muggle in all his life. So, let me see if I have this right. He tried to keep his voice even. You stole the port key and replaced it with another one, which brought us to fucking America? He growled, slowly looking up at his curly-haired companion. You kidnapped Granger from the bar, forcing her to come with us, and then what? Lost the fucking room? Theo shoved his hands in his pockets and nodded dramatically. Yeah, that about covers it. You must know more than that, Theodore. You knew Granger and I. His voice trailed off. He couldn't bring himself to voice their situation. Theo reached into his pocket and produced a folded piece of paper. I only knew because this was in my room underneath the key to your room. He extended it to Draco, who took it with uncertainty. Unfolding it confirmed what he was so desperate to deny. It appeared to be a Muggle marriage certificate. He let out a groan and dropped it, letting his head fall in his hands again. Theo, he said quietly, his face still hidden in his hands. Yeah, mate. When this is all over, I'm going to kill you, just so you know. At that moment, it felt like he meant it too. Something tells me there will be a line, myself included, grumbled the voice of Hermione from behind him, finally having emerged from the bathroom. Aw, that'll be a sweet little bonding activity to start your marriage off with. Theo grinned. Draco lifted his head from his hands and glared at him. Theo looked between the two of them and slowly his smile dissipated. You know, when you both look at me like that, it's rather scary, he mumbled. We should probably search the room and see if we can find anything that will help us remember something from last night, Hermione grumbled, opening the mini fridge and peering inside. I don't recall asking for your help, Granger, Draco snapped. He was met with a cold look of disdain. Well, my dearest husband, unfortunately for the time being, we are stuck with each other until we can get back to London and have this whole mess sorted out. I'm guessing this genius didn't think to submit paperwork for the sudden 5th passenger before kidnapping me last night. And unless you know where your identification papers are, then we're in this together, Hermione snapped. Her little speech filled him with dread. His ID had been in his suit jacket, which from his very brief search of the room was not in here. He glared up again at Theo, who this time at least had the decency to begin looking remorseful. Hermione knelt and picked up the marriage certificate from the ground. I suppose we could start here, go back and see if they remember us, and then maybe find out how official this is. With any luck, it will just be one of those sham, fake ones, she suggested, and because he couldn't think of an alternative, he agreed. The chapel was a disgusting shade of bright orange with green and pink bells painted on the side and a neon flashing sign reading Instant Weddings hung above the door. Anyone remember this? Hermione looked up to the two wizards beside her, sighing when no one answered. All right, well, let's get this over with then. The office inside was dingy and smelt of stale liquor. A chime sounded somewhere further inside the building as they pushed the door open. For a few moments, the three of them stood awkwardly, looking around in silence before a short woman with gray hair piled up like a beehive and too much makeup sauntered out. She seemed to recognize them because her face lit up with a smile. Oh, you're back! I was expecting to see you at some point. I didn't think it would be so soon. You were? Draco raised an eyebrow at her. Yes, of course. You lot have good timing, actually. I've just finished copying the ceremony onto the next tapes for you. Wait here, I'll go get them. The woman was far too peppy, but she disappeared out the back again before they could say anything else. Hermione sighed a deep sigh of disappointment. Draco followed her gaze to a certificate that hung on the wall behind the counter, indicating that this was indeed a registered chapel. at least among the Muggle world. Draco couldn't recall any knowledge on Muggle to wizarding laws regarding marriage. It probably had to do with the fact that those raised among the wizarding world were raised with the belief that marriage was sacred. He prayed to Merlin, Salazar, and Rowena, Helga, and Godric that this was going to be a quick fix. Otherwise, this was going to lead to a very uncomfortable conversation with his mother.
Theo.
Yeah, I know. Imminent death. The gray-haired, peppy woman returned with a box of little black and white rectangles. Draco could only assume it was a Muggle thing because he had never seen them before in his life. Hermione offered a forced smile. Oh, so we really got married last night? The woman stared back at her for a few minutes before laughing. I suppose it is still a surreal feeling, isn't it, dear? Hermione forced a small nod and held her smile, which was clear to everyone but the woman was strained. Don't worry, darling, that will fade before you know it. Soon enough, the very sight of him will drive you to contemplate suffocating him. The lady joked, waving her hand at Hermione as if they were old pals. Oh, you have no idea, Theo muttered. Hermione accepted the box hesitantly and turned to glower at Theo. Now what? Draco snapped, once they were in an empty parking lot once more. Hermione shifted uncomfortably. I guess we go back to the hotel and watch the tape to see if it tells us anything. Watch these? Why? Does it move? Draco picked up one of the rectangles out of the box and shook it expectantly. Hermione blinked disbelievingly at him. I'm married to an idiot, she mumbled before walking away in the direction of the hotel they had left not even 30 minutes ago. I think your wife's angry, Theo stated casually. Theo, I swear to Merlin, mate, statute of secrecy or not, one more word and I'll avada you right now, Draco snapped, storming off after the witch. By the time they made it back to their hotel room, he was sweating from the hot Las Vegas sun, his stomach was rumbling, and his headache was returning. Hermione, however, seemed driven by the need to get to the bottom of the events of last night. He didn't blame her for that, but unfortunately, he was rather out of his depth here. Hermione was busy stuffing one of the black rectangles inside a large silver rectangle box, while he rifled through the small ice box she had been looking in earlier. Do you muggles not eat? He grumbled when he was faced with what appeared to be bottles of water and some small red rectangles. Hermione rolled her eyes and walked to an object on the desk, asking it for some cheeseburger and fries. He was tempted to ask if she had lost her damn mind, but if the last hour had taught him anything, it was clear that they all had. Images started moving on the face of the black box, and he was met with the images of a very intoxicated version of himself and Hermione on the screen. He could see a smaller version of Theo standing behind him, and Gregory was in the background, lying across several chairs. It was horrifying to watch and hear him and Granger pledging to love and cherish one another so long as they live. Okay, so Goyle was with us then, but no Zabini. Hermione looked as disgusted as he felt. Malfoy, look, you were wearing that stupid suit jacket over your shirt last night too, and I still had my bag, which means we must have our wands and IDs somewhere nearby. A knock on the door interrupted them. Draco looked from the object on his desk to the man Hermione was now talking to with a trolley of food. The food smelt divine, and his first bite confirmed that this was officially his new favorite meal. Theo, how far away is your room? Theo had just been about to take a bite of one of the burgers, but set it back down again with a disappointed sigh before examining her expression. It was only 5 minutes after the two of them disappeared down the hall before they returned again, this time not empty-handed. Hermione tossed his jacket at him and began ruffling through her bag. Draco felt a sense of relief as his hand wrapped around his wand. There was another key, too, but it wasn't like the one they had used to get into this room. Instead, there was a blue tag hanging from it with the name of what Draco could only assume was another hotel and the number 7 on the other side. Hermione's eyes were wide with delight. Rudely, she snatched it out of his hand before hurrying back to the desk. This is only a few doors down, she exclaimed, turning around again. Let's go. She grabbed her bag and was halfway out the door. Theo sighed again and put his burger down for the second time, untouched. I'm just saying, I know you're her husband and all, but it's blatant favoritism. Serves you right, Draco snapped back, following her out of the room. Oh, for goodness sake, just bring it with you, Hermione snapped over her shoulder. For such a short witch, she moved fast. She was practically bouncing as she opened the door to the dingy, cheap-looking hotel room. A constant thump was coming from the other side of the door leading off the room. Draco raced forward and tried to open the door to no avail. Checking the coast was clear, he cast a quick Aloha Morha. The door flung open to reveal a very aggravated-looking Blaze and several very strange-looking black and white birds. Oh, hey guys, nice to see ya. Congratulations on the nuptials. Excuse me, he spat snarkily as he pushed past Draco and stormed toward Theo, who realized far too late what was about to happen. There was a loud smacking sound as Blaze's fists collided with Theo's jaw.